Welcome.
Thanks, good to be here.
This
Doing
is-
the live demo thing.
Yeah, I
like
know.
it.
And obviously, live demos are so much worse when they're AI-based because you just get a different thing every time. It's like it's over the top.
It adds an element of fun.
Exactly, it just gets you really live.
Yeah.
So this is the last public speaking appearance you did was Theo Van. He actually took a lot of the questions that I wanted to ask.
Same kind of vibe.
Exactly, yeah. Here at Stripe Sessions. So we obviously just talked a whole bunch about AI. You are, I mean, arguably just the largest AI company, right? You are the largest buyer of GPUs in the US outside of a cloud hyperscaler, from my deep research. How has your thinking on AI just evolved over the past year? It hasn't been moving slowly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the high level is it's on track.
How so?
Well, I mean, I think one of the big questions is, I think it's like, I think most people at this point view that AI is going to transform pretty much every category of product and every part of the economy and all that. The big question is, to what extent are we in a bubble versus to what extent, is this gonna be a big thing soon? And I mean, I think one of the, I mean, you were just talking about this, I think, right before I came out. It's, even if it is a bubble and it takes a bit longer to build out, that's not necessarily the end of the world, although it will be expensive.
For certain people.
Well, yeah, when you're spending $65 to $70 billion in capex a year, you'd like it to come when you think it's going to come. But but I think the main question is sort of, is this going to be a kind of 5 to 10 year thing? And in some ways, it probably will, to get built into every enterprise workflow and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, the more time that, the more that we work on this, it actually seems like all the things that we think are going to happen sooner, and being even more ambitious has been more predictive over the last few years about where things are likely going to be in the industry. So I mean, like, we keep on, building, setting goals for our teams. Meta AI is like, we're right about 1 billion people monthly active using it across our apps. We keep on setting these goals for, what do we think is going to be the most used AI? What do we need to do? And we keep on passing them, and then like others in the industry keep on passing their goals too. And then we're like, we should have had even higher goals. And how much AI is accelerating all of the business agent stuff that we're doing, and advertising and changing that. It's like, it's all just happening very quickly.
Do you want to describe the business agent stuff briefly for people who aren't familiar? Maybe everyone's familiar.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two basic versions of this, and I think this is probably good context for folks here to have. I mean, one is just the transformation of the ad system, right? Where, it used to basically be, if you wanted to run ads, you had to like come up with your own creative, and you had to come up with who you wanted to reach. You had to kind of have a sense of who your customers were, and do a lot of your own measurement. And over time, we've just like automated more and more of this stuff. So the basic end goal here is, any business can come to us, say what their objective is. I want to get new customers to do this thing. I want to sell these things. Tell us how much they're willing to pay to achieve those results, connect their bank account, and then we just deliver as many results as we can. And in a way, I mean, it's kind of like the ultimate business results machine. It's probably, I think, going to be one of the most important and valuable AI systems and kind of business systems that gets built. Now, I mean, obviously, there's a whole ecosystem around this stuff. No one company is going to do everything in advertising. There are all these companies that specialize in doing creative work, and they'll keep on doing that. And but it will be possible in the future that if you're running a small business, or maybe even a larger one, you won't even need to have to start off with a creative. Maybe you can. Maybe you'll get better results. But you could just come with a goal, and how much that's worth to you, and we'll just kind of deliver results across our platform. So I think that's cool, and I think is going to pretty dramatically change what advertising is. Historically, advertising has been about 1% of global GDP, but that includes all the stuff that's really inefficient. Like, you buy a billboard, and like 3/4 of the people who see the billboard are not target customers. So when you actually can change it so it turns into this like AI business results machine, I think that, just like the overall internet economy is going to grow, I would guess that what we currently think of advertising will sort of grow as a field and will be a larger portion of global GDP. It's interesting. I mean, a lot of innovative companies are experimenting with different kinds of automation with our platforms, and that's kind of a fun thing that we can get into. The other part of what we're doing on business agents is this notion that, just like every business today has an email address and and a website and a social media presence, in the future, every business is going to have an AI agent that lives in the different messaging platforms that their customers can do customer support and sales through. And there's sort of this wild precedent that we've seen so far in a couple of countries where, like Thailand and Vietnam are kind of these interesting cases for us, where there's relatively low cost of human labor, and because of that, a lot of the economy is sort of developed around messaging. And basically, like a large number of businesses out there can afford to have people who just do manual customer support and sales through messaging. And it's at the point where, even though Thailand and Vietnam are like ranked in the top, I think they're in the 30s by global GDP, they're actually Meta's number 10 and 11 revenue countries. And it's just because so much commerce in those places goes through the messaging platforms already. But that hasn't really come to a lot of developed countries yet for a number of reasons, including the kind of cost of labor. But I think when you get to the point where every business just has a business agent that is an AI agent that can do customer support and sales, I think that that's just going to turbocharge. And most of our business today, it's Facebook and Instagram and ads in there. WhatsApp really, from a revenue perspective at least, is sort of just getting started. And I think that that's kind of going to be the next pillar of the business.
So sorry, that's quite interesting. Basically, you're saying that when cost of labor is not an issue, you see people have much more messaging-based business experiences, kind of UIs at some level for how you do things. And the reason that we don't see as much of it in the US is just it's too expensive to have someone at your hair salon just responding to messages all day. And that's one of your predictions for how it seems like people actually want to interact with.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that there is some path determinism here, and I think that the whole messaging ecosystem developed differently in some of these places where the cost of human labor was lower. But overall, I think people are going to contact more businesses for more things when they get very high quality, low latency, personalized responses. And now, I mean, of course, in the kind of modern web, you'll be able to have a business agent that is a chatbot on your website too. So, I mean, how much of that is happening through messaging services versus apps, or having this just embedded everywhere, I'm not sure. But overall, we do see, across our platforms, just a business messaging is growing very quickly. It's about $10 billion of revenue now, continues to grow quickly. And yeah, I think that this is probably going to be the next kind of new pillar of our business and the stuff that we're doing.
And then on the first point you made, it sounds like you're basically saying that execution friction just gets in the way of a lot of things. Like, maybe there'd be more confetti animations in the world if it was just, a single line to get them to happen. And similarly, you think that many businesses would actually go out and do more. It's not that they're not economically willing to pay $20 to get an acquired user or something like that. It's just all the steps that go into the data analytics and the creative and everything like that mean that they don't actually get the right outcome for their businesses. And so less friction in execution.
Well, that, and also, I think we've just reached a point where the AI is more effective at a lot of things that different businesses do. So, I mean, it's like, okay, if you're starting a company, there's normally like some core idea or something that you're trying to do, and then there's like all these other things that you need to do to make a company work. And like, okay, if you want to reach customers, you've had to, like basically go find ways to do marketing. And then, okay, you want to make sure your marketing works well. So you need to like find ways to measure your marketing and all this. And I do think a bunch of that stuff, we're just getting to the point where the AI can do it better than sort of the average people who are doing that, which makes it so that more companies can get started more easily. I mean, this is also a big theme for Stripe, right? It's like, okay, companies also needed to spend all this time doing all this different stuff with financial services and payments. Now they don't have to. So I think what that allows is just way more people in the world to focus on what their core idea is and kind of execute that and have a core talent-dense team of people who are like focused on that idea. And more of the stuff that's like not the core part of building your company is going to be able to be offloaded. So, in the future, if you were working with a creative agency to make creative, you'll probably keep doing that. If you aren't, then you know, and you're just kind of hacking something together and throwing it into Meta's ad system, well, now we're going to be able to come up with like 4,000 different versions of your creative and just test them and figure out which one works best. You know, it used to be that on the targeting side, like the way that our business kind of got started on the ad side was because people put all this profile information into Facebook early on. It used to be like a great place for a business to say, okay, I think my product is like, I think like women between like, you know, 18 and 28 in this city are really going to love this thing. And like Facebook early on, it was like the best place to go reach them because, okay, we kind of knew who the people were and had all this, people had input all this demographic information. At this point, we basically encourage advertisers not to restrict what the AI can do. Like we're like, all right, look, if you think that like women in kind of this age range are going to be more receptive, then yeah, give us that hint as kind of an input to the system. But you know, unless you really have a reason why you don't want to sell to other people, don't constrain who we're going to reach to just that, because the AI is actually probably going to be able to find who is going to be interested in your product better than you can. And that just means that, okay, you just focus on building the best product. More stuff that's awesome is going to happen in the world.
The Hello Kitty effect. So, last question on the AI, maybe.
I'm not familiar with that reference.
Never mind. So, just on AI and market structure, obviously, you guys are so interesting here because, unlike a lot of the pure play AI companies, you were off doing stuff, doing a lot of production AI, and then also decided to get into the AI business. And also, you know, Llama, well, one of your big bets is open source. I guess you're also wearing the. What are your Meta Ray-Bans saying to you about me right now? Like, what are they? What blinking warning
no,
is?
they're off. I left my phone backstage. Their Bluetooth connection is severed.
I'm picturing like a Terminator-style UI.
Well, look, you know, I'm like famously awkward. I need some input as I'm, you know, as we're doing these, so I can make sure I don't say anything stupid.
Yeah, John, not Patrick. No, okay. So anyway, you guys are doing a lot in AI, and I'm just curious for your thoughts on market structure because it's a super fast evolving. Like, it feels to me like the first time since I moved to the Valley that we've been in a tech race. You read about the development of, you know, the computing industry in the 1980s, and there's a new leader every 6 months. And we didn't have a good tech race for a while, and now we do, where there's constantly evolving leaders, and it's just not clear even where the value capture happens. And so I'm curious how you see the chessboard.
Well, I mean, I think this is going to transform every category. So I think people are like, oh, is it going to be primarily a consumer thing or is it going to be primarily an enterprise thing? It's going to be everything. So it's kind of like at the internet, it's like, what is the point of the internet? Is it going to be consumer or enterprise? It's like, there are going to be a lot of opportunities, right? So I think we were kind of in this zone early on where, you know, people were competing to build the kind of best general model. And my guess is that that stuff is just going to start specializing a little bit. There's obviously, I mean, intelligence by its nature is general, so you're not going to be able to just build something that is focused on kind of one area and only go deep in that and not be good at other things. But I do think it'll be the case that the products and ecosystems and the areas of research that different companies emphasize will be focused on different areas. And you know, we're doing some of the business stuff we just talked about. We're also on the consumer side very focused on like personal AI, right? More than kind of productivity. So, you know, what is that? It's going to be probably more conversational, probably index a little bit more towards voice, be more personalized. You know, I think people are going to want a system that gets to know them well and that kind of understands them in the way that their feed algorithms do. And honestly, that they don't have to like, you know, ramp up from scratch because it's already connected to some of that stuff. And like as you walk through the world and you have your glasses, like you can, you know, it's like glasses are kind of the perfect form factor for AI because you can let an AI see what you see and hear what you hear and talk to you throughout the day, and it should all just kind of get to know you, right? And it shouldn't be like every time you do a query, it's like, you know, you're just kind of starting from scratch and you need to provide it all the details. So that's going to be kind of our game on the consumer side, and that's a little bit different from, you know, a company like, you know, Anthropic or Cursor, who, you know, Claude can do a lot of stuff, but like they're really focused on coding and coding agents, and like that's going to be a massive, massive part of the economy, right? Where there's like all these knowledge workers and engineers, and they'll all be turbocharged by now having more, every engineer is going to be a tech lead that has like effectively an army that is working for them.
It is striking to me what an overhang there is of personalization in AI, the ability to improve products. Like, it's kind of funny to me that Siri cannot understand my voice to save its life. And it's kind of funny, right? Because it's a general language recognition model, but you have so much of my voice to go off. Like, your job is not to recognize any voice under the sun, it's just to recognize my voice. And similarly, it would be trivial to have personalized handwriting recognition models, but we don't have those yet. And so it's just interesting to me how little personalization there is compared to how much we'll obviously have in 5 years' time.
No, I mean, I think it's very little right now. I think we're just starting to scratch the surface with some of these products on like, okay, they learn from what you've talked about in the past and what you've told them in that model. But I think it's pretty clear that you're going to want to connect more and more things to your AI. So from our world, it's going to be starting with the other meta services, messaging, glasses, like all of that, as well as just be able to infer and kind of remember the key things from all the conversations that you've had over time.
No, it's going to be really good. I'm very excited for the Stripe sessions in 5 years' time and what we're...
It's going to be, it's going to be wild.
It's going to be a wild time. Does it feel like a wild time to you? Like, again, it feels...
Oh, yeah, it's the craziest.
But, like, it's very
amazing.
Different. Yeah, it's very different to 3 years ago. Things were just quieter 3 years ago. Maybe not for you.
Well, I think it was starting 3 years ago. It's ramping. It's ramping. I don't know. I think it's the most exciting time. But it's like, no, it's really good. I think it's just but I do think that everyone needs to kind of rethink a lot of the different ways that their products work. And over time, I think that there are going to be a lot of opportunities for just building companies in different ways too. Like, there's the version of this where like everyone at your company just gets a ton more leverage. And that's the version that I'm kind of excited about. People are, I think, very fixated on this notion of AI is going to be able to like replace people's jobs.
It's the wrong mental model. Yeah.
I mean, I guess if we get into like some kind of really deep recession and the order of the day is like everything needs to be more efficient, I guess AI can be used to make things more efficient. But I mean, across what we do, there are all these places where there's stuff that just like wasn't cost effective to do before. Like provide voice customer support for everyone who uses Meta. It's like, all right, there's billions of people use, it's like that would cost so much, right, to do. It's like we would cost us so much, and we don't charge for our product. So our business model doesn't quite support that. But okay, maybe now if you could have a voice AI that could answer 90% of people's questions, maybe now it makes sense to go hire the people to go answer the other 10% of questions that the AI can't, because you could kind of, again, you're just getting this like 10x leverage, and it's just super, super powerful.
This is where someone whispers Jeffen's paradox from off stage.
Yeah.
But, okay, as we live through this very fast-changing landscape, you are positioning Meta for it. And one thing, as I was preparing for this, that I was observing is it feels like you are early to a lot of tech trends. So here's my argument for this. You built your own chat app when you were 11, before AIM took off. This was in 1990.
Yeah, gotta connect my dad's different offices in his dental office. I built him ZuckNet.
Yeah, so with the computers at your dad's dentist's office, the Oculus
had to convince him to get me a computer. It's like,
okay, so it's a good
the business model of a kid is like do useful things for your parents in order to get computer.
See, it's always been about business messaging. So
it really has been.
You acquired Oculus 11 years ago. Like, AR was not a cool thing 11 years ago. I don't know, is it fair to say that FAIR, the AI lab, was kind of one of the earliest big things you guys did in AI, but that was 2013, again, before the entire current trend. I want to get to Libra later on, the thing people are obviously most excited to hear about. But
that thing's dead.
But
the good news is you have reincarnated the idea with Bridge into something that is going to do much better, because now there's actually a company that is fully focused on this that's going to absolutely nail the opportunity globally.
We are seeing a lot of stablecoin growth, as we showed the chart. But I guess, is this part of your self-identity, being early to tech trends, and this is how Meta stays ahead, and this is kind of how you have been good at what it is that you do?
I mean, well, it's certainly more fun when you're early than you're late, but I mean, there's plenty of things that I'm late to and have to kind of claw our way back into the game, which I think we're pretty good at that too. But I don't know. Well, what were we late to? I mean, like Reels, right? TikTok got to be pretty big before we're like, okay, we need to go win. But
Reels is pretty big. Seems like people are watching a lot of Reels.
Look,
you did fine on Reels.
We're doing okay. We're doing okay. Yeah. But I mean, you know, TikTok is a very big competitor, and yeah. So there's some things that we're kind of ahead on, some things that we're behind on. I think that's the nature of the world. If you're behind on everything, that probably doesn't work. For the next computing platforms, and I guess the way I thought about it was, I started the company in 2004. Like the smartphone, or the iPhone at least, came out in 2007. So, you know, we were still in the phase of just like existential, trying to survive and like kind of be a reasonable company at the time that all the smartphone stuff was getting done. So we obviously weren't going to play any role in defining that. And the smartphone overall, I think, has been, you know, it's been great in a bunch of ways. Now everyone has a computer in their pocket that they could bring with them all day long, and great for communicating, great for entertainment, great for all this utility. It's good. The thing that's complicated for us is like we deliver our services through our competitors, right? So Apple and Google, probably, you know, two of our biggest competitors. It is awkward, right, to basically have the main kind of way that you distribute your service.
When you run into Tim and Sundar, is it awkward?
God, you know, I'm gonna dodge the Apple thing again. You're really trying to drag me in here. Tim's had a bad week. I'm not gonna pile on. No, but Sundar's cool. I like Sundar. But no, it's complicated, right? It's complicated. Delivering your services through competitors who are trying to compete with your thing. You know, so, you know, it's like if you're Apple, they like really want iMessage to win, and they don't, you know, it's like, you know, the more things that are cross-platform, the easier it is for people to switch from iPhones to Android phones, right? So it's like, all right, they can probably survive Spotify, but, you know, it's like, but like the more things that are like, iMessage is such a huge lock-in for them. So I think it's a big deal. So anyhow, going back to the main question though, I kind of was, so there are all these things over time that Google, but especially Apple, have just been like, you can't do these things that you think, that I think are good consumer things to do. And at some point we ran this calculation and we're like, all right, if we were able to do all the things that we thought were good, like between the additional engagement and usage of our apps and the random taxes and stuff, like I think we might be twice as profitable as a company or something as we are now. So it's, and obviously, like, I mean, I honestly get more offended by like the consumer things that we just think are good that they just block us from doing.
You just can't do the consumer
things you want to do. So it's like, okay, we really should try to play a role in shaping the next computing platform. And now we're not a company that has like built operating systems and computing platforms. So my general assumption is if we show up the same year as Apple or Google with Android, or, you know, even Microsoft with Windows, you know, if they kind of built the same kind of AR glasses the same year, I kind of assume the tie goes to them because they have a much kind of bigger kind of base of stuff built out. So my view is that we have to be better and earlier, and maybe that will mean that we need to invest a little bit, or a lot in advance of when the market is ready for prime time. But I mean, look, we're doing it. I think our VR products, I think, are better and 10 times cheaper than Apple's. Our AR stuff, the glasses, I mean, the things that I'm wearing now, it's like going really well. We're selling many millions of units and just going to keep on expanding into more styles, more functionality. We'll kind of add the holograms in. So yeah, no, I feel good about that. I think that this is going to be like, I think the glasses especially are going to be like the ultimate social platform, because holograms will deliver this like this feeling of presence, like you're there with another person, and that's something that like no screen today can deliver. So it's like in the future, maybe I'll just like beam in as a hologram to this, and that'll be pretty cool. But between that and glasses being the ultimate device for AI that can like, see what you see and hear what you hear, I think this is one that is worth investing in 10 years ahead.
Okay, I want to ask about leadership. So Microsoft invested in Meta in 2007, that big strategic investment. And our mutual friend, Charlie Songhurst, was involved in that investment at the time. And he said that a big part of his investment thesis for why it made sense for Microsoft to invest in Meta was because you were able to beat the Civ AI on deity level difficulty, which is the top of the 8 difficulty levels. What do you think about this as an investment thesis in Meta?
Well, I mean, the Civ AI has always been famously bad. So I think it's beating all the other people that is actually more impressive than beating the deity mode. But I don't know. I think, I don't know, games, yeah. I definitely, there's one theory on kind of hiring or investing in people, which is like being able to be excellent at one thing is sort of shows that someone has the discipline to be able to become excellent at something, right? So whether you're like a Olympian athlete or good at any one area, or like I think that level of achievement, it sort of requires basic level of dedication, a ability to basically learn new things and master things. And I think in general, people who can do that, it's kind of like the thinking on going to school, right? It's like, okay, maybe you learn some stuff in your courses, but really, in theory, you're supposed to learn how to think and learn new things. And so I don't know. I didn't actually know that he wanted to invest because I was good at.
I'm sure they told you it was
if
the
I were
metrics
picking like the things that like I might be good at, I wasn't going to think that like Civ is like that meaningful of one of them. But I'm glad to know that that's what got the deal done. It's like all those thousands of hours playing Civ are actually useful.
Exactly. Go back and tell your parents now. Yeah. It's like, I just want to correct the record about video games.
Yeah.
So last year we had Jensen Huang here, and he had a conversation with Patrick, and he described his management system, which, as you probably know, is somewhat singular. He has 60 direct reports. Doesn't do any one-on-ones, and it kind of goes from there. Do you have an unusual management system, like what will be in the Mark Zuckerberg management book? Where do you differ from the orthodoxy?
That's a good question. So I don't have 60 direct reports. I don't even like managing people. So I don't.
I mean,
so
that's different from the orthodoxy somewhat,
No, so actually, the way that we've set up the company is we have, there are a bunch of really great leaders who we have like 15 different product groups, everything from like Facebook to Instagram to our ad system to VR to the glasses to like all the different stuff. And I kind of think that the people who run those 15 groups or so are like the people who are running like the real things. And then, but I don't want to have 15 direct reports. And so we kind of have organized the company thematically where, all the apps report to Chris, and all the kind of cross-cutting services like the ads and the infra and the integrity systems and all that stuff report to Javi. And a lot of the like future tech platform stuff reports to Boz. And that's great. But I've also set it up so I just like go to the people who, so I mean, obviously those people are all brilliant, and I work with them super closely. But I also go like directly to the people who are running whatever the thing is that I care about. So we're very non-hierarchical in that way. I think of our management team is not really just my direct reports. It's sort of like this broader group of like 25 to 30 people who I try to include in everything.
So you don't have 60 direct reports. That would be crazy. However, there are 25 to 30 people to whom you go and direct their work.
Probably more, but at least
60 direct reports would be crazy.
Well, what's the point of having direct reports if you're not going to like do one-on-ones? Well, I actually don't do one-on-ones with the people who report to me either. But sorry. So let me stop that sentence and cut that off. But why would you have 60 of them if you aren't going to do direct? Like, I actually believe management is important, right? And like part of the reason why I don't have all the
other people to do.
I think if you're going to report to me, you need to be able to manage yourself. But I believe that for the rest of the company, management is kind of important, and it's like an important way that people grow. But for the team, I like want to have sort of the largest group that I think can basically have context on every single thing that's happening across the company. And so that way they can go do as much as possible. And so that's why I have this group that I sort of ironically call small group, but it's like, 25 to 30 people. And that's like
the
people are
small
like
group
running
auditorium
all these things, and that's like, and I invest a lot of time in like making sure that there's a group that's very connected to each other and that have all the context on what's going on inside the company. And that's sort of like the core army that can go get like anything done across the company. But I guess the other thing that maybe is non-orthodoxy, and maybe like a little pithier to explain this, I basically don't believe in delegation. I think that there's sort of this theory that a lot of people have, which is like, all right, the job of a leader is like you hire people and you delegate things to them. My theory is there's so much going on across the company that I can't possibly get involved in all of it. So all these people are gonna have like a ton of stuff that they're gonna do. But fundamentally, if there's a decision that I wanna be involved with, I'm going to be involved in it. I don't believe in delegating. It's like I think that that's generally a good way for founders to operate. I think it's like, if you're running the company and you're on the hook for everything and there's like something that's important at whatever level of detail in the organization, I don't get like the logic of saying like, I'm not gonna be involved in that. Now, I mean, you wanna have humility and know that like, if you're diving into some decision, you may not have the most context immediately, but I generally think that you wanna be able to just have the cultural expectation that things are not going to be so hierarchical and like you're just going to dive into whatever you want.
Well, and so what is a week in the life of Mark where it's striking to me that you do often have a lot of context on these product things, but at the same time, you've been running the company for 21 years, you presumably don't have to do the things that you don't want to do, and so I'm curious how you organize your time to actually spend time on the things that you think is valuable for the company that you want to work on, and just so you have the context to be able to make these decisions.
Yeah, I guess I really try to minimize standing meetings. So I do 2 things weekly with this like small group zone, right? There's like an open-ended kind of strategy discussion, and then I go through like I have an operational meeting where I like basically go through company priorities, and that is it, right? So the point of not having one-on-ones.
Sorry, the only recurring meetings you're in are these. Okay.
Yeah. I do earnings once a quarter, and like okay, but like. We have a board meeting.
Current calendar hold.
There's a board meeting, like stuff like that. But in general, no, I try to cut down on that. And when I say I don't have one-on-ones, I don't have like recurring scheduled one-on-ones. I talk to all these people constantly, and more than they want to talk to me. I'm sure. But I do it when I have something that I want to talk to them about, or if they want to talk to me. I try to generally keep a bunch of time open, so that way like. Stuff is pretty dynamic, and like you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I need to work on these 3 things today, and I want to make sure that I have a block of time where I can go do that. I get really frustrated and bad mood if like my whole day is scheduled and there's like a thing that I know is really important and I like don't get time to do it because I'm sitting in other things that are not the most important thing to be doing. It's like you have too many days like that in a row and I just like explode. So I think it's just like you want to make sure that you keep like a meaningful amount of your time, I think, open, so that way you can just go talk to the people that you want to, either about whatever you want to get done or whatever you want to learn about what's going on in the organization.
So very few recurring meetings, but you have to turn up to earnings.
Yeah. I haven't won that argument with Susan yet.
Okay, well, I'm not going to wade into that, but very few recurring meetings. Sorry, meta investors. Decided here.
It's like, now look what you've done.
Exactly. Very few recurring meetings, diving deep with the core.
No, I think going to earnings is actually pretty good, for the record. For everyone who's live streaming this. It's good. High leverage, good use of time.
Excellent. Very few recurring meetings, diving deep with the people that you actually need to spend time on, and tons of free time. It sounds like that's part of what has allowed you to actually be ready for these new things.
Yeah, that and like really good people. Yeah. Right, I think like it's...
That's what struck me about the Meta senior leadership team. Very strong leaders who've been at the company a very long time.
Yeah, we have a tenured team. One of the things that's interesting, so we have these like 15 or so different product groups. one of the things that I think is really cool is none of them actually started at the company running a product group. So like, it's just a completely different set of things. Like some started as a designer, some started as a data analyst, one started as an admin, two actually now on our management team started as admins, and some started as like an engineering director or something, and then eventually kind of got to be a VP running a big group. But it's literally like part of the process for me is that it's not just like, is this person good? It's like you want to have a dense network of connections so that way, it's ultimately like getting things done is a people-driven thing as much as it is kind of an intellectual exercise. And I think it's just really valuable when you're running a team to have a team that is densely connected, that trusts each other, that understands like each other's APIs and like how what they're good at, what their weaknesses are, and just has like a long history and trust of having worked together on a bunch of things. That's like, you can't hire that. You have to build that. And so I think a lot of people think about, how they want to run their company in terms of like, what is the org chart, right? It's like how many people report to you, whatever. Like it's, I actually think like the people and the culture, what's the saying? Culture eats strategy for breakfast or whatever, right? It's like, I do think that there's like, it doesn't matter what lines you draw or all that. You need to have really good people, and I think you need to make sure that they work well together. And no matter, like, different people have different ways of doing that. One of the ways that I do it is I just like think, okay, if you want to get a group to work well together, let's like get a group and like we'll spend a lot of time together going through all the context of everything across the company, and like that's what's worked for me. It doesn't mean that it has to be what is the case for everyone, but that's at least what's worked for me.
In a way, I think this is like an old-fashioned management philosophy of a high-trust group that spent lots of time together that's pretty well bonded. And so there's some ways in which you're embracing the orthodoxy. And sorry, I have a very oddly specific question, but I was just wondering, like, everyone here is running a business where there's a tension between investing in the current thing that's working and we could just do an iterative improvement, or your version of the Meta Ray-Bans or Llama or some new thing that could be a huge business in future, but just like it's not going to show any interesting P&L contribution this year or next year. And I think that problem is interestingly scale invariant. Like we had it when we were 10 people at Stripe, we were at it when we were 1,000 people at Stripe, we still have it. You're always debating between the, this year payoff, next year payoff, 10 years from now payoff. Do you think about that question quantitatively? Do you just do stuff that you think is cool? Like, you see what I mean by the problem, right? Every single business faces it of just the competing time horizons.
Yeah. I don't know that there's one answer to it. Obviously, some of that depends on like how profitable is your business and how many bets can you take long term. Like obviously, when you're getting started, you're like just trying to survive.
Step one, be very profitable.
Yeah, step one. Yeah. Well, I mean, look. Yeah, I think every business goes through the phase early on where you're just trying to like survive and become a stable and self-sustaining thing. And you obviously want to do that in a way that has an eye towards the future. But I think that there is this just sort of like grappling to get to some kind of sustainability part. That's the beginning of a business. And then after that, you can make different bets. I don't have a specific kind of quantitative or financial framework for this. It might be better if I did. But I kind of just think like you want to get really good people to do all of the different things, and then you want to do all of the things that you're doing well. And so I think like part of this is we can do the long-term stuff because we do really well at the core business. And on a day-to-day basis, like I'm not spending really any time like doing the improvements to the recommendation algorithm in Feed or Instagram or the ad system, but like the people who are running those teams are amazing and they get whatever resources they need, right? Because like that's just like fundamentally, I mean, those are the core products that people come to the company to use. And I think that there's so much more upside in terms of delivering better personalized experiences, the business AI platform that I talked about earlier, all that stuff. And so you want to make sure you have, so I think about stuff maybe more in terms of people than finances, which is like, where are you going to allocate the best people and like who gets to eat first? And then there's just a question of, okay, like the more profitable you are, the more you can try different things on top of that, and the more of a surplus you have in talent, the more you can do good things, good additional things. But like, yeah, I'm probably more people focused on that than kind of.
It's more about management bandwidth, yeah. We're almost out of time, and I can't believe I haven't gotten back to the most important thing to talk about, which is payments and stablecoins.
Yeah, let's do it.
And your earlier, no. I guess I'm just curious, what got you really excited about Libra and getting into the stablecoin space in 2019? Libra obviously didn't work out. Now we're seeing huge amounts of stablecoin adoption. But I'm just curious, what was your thesis back then?
Well, so I kind of have this view that if you were starting a social app from scratch today, rather than starting it with a feed, I think that's a big thing too. It's sort of evolved into this like algorithmic discovery engine. I think you'd start off as a messaging platform, and basically the atomic unit is like a one-to-one encrypted message that's like super private and secure. And then you build like really secure ways for people to share all the things that they want on top of that. So like encrypted calls, encrypted location sharing, all this stuff. So it just seems
journalists from the Atlantic. And
like it seems self-evident to me that, again, not gonna take the bait, but it's like you're like journalist level, like trying to get me in trouble here. But it seems sort of self-evident that like being able to pay and send money to people should be a core part of this. And so how that works, whether it's a stable coin or fiat or whatever, is perhaps less important, except that our messaging systems are inherently global. And as you know, sending money to people across lines, country lines, is like surprisingly, crazily difficult, right? So we're like, okay, like we're not a financial services company, but it just seems like this thing is so broken that like someone needs to build a stable coin, and the thing that needs to exist is basically it needs to have a certain amount of scale in order to become a standard. And our take on that was like, all right, maybe we can do that because Meta is a kind of large enough company to kind of build this in a standard, and like WhatsApp is a large enough app that maybe if you get people transacting in that becomes a standard. Honestly, what you're doing makes much more sense than what we were doing. I think these things are very DNA driven, and like you guys are I think the
we
best.
Think about it a lot,
The best, like financial services payments company. Whereas this was a project for us, this is like your whole company is making this thing go well, and your talent density. I mean, just going back to the question we were talking about before, is super deep in these areas, and you have like all these awesome people who are like very interconnected to the company who are going to do this, and that's why. I mean, I think you guys are just kind of steadily building what I think is going to be one of the most valuable companies in the history of the world, and I really admire the way that you guys run the company and all that. And I think everyone who uses your platforms is along for the ride, and they're going to all benefit from all the innovation that you bring. But no, what you guys did with buying Bridge, building it out as a standard, getting to critical mass on reach, having it be a global thing across the global network that you're building out. It makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's going to work, and I think you guys are probably the much better company to do this. I think than we would have been, and I'm glad it's happening.
Well, hopefully there's some collabs in the future. We're very intrigued, where I think part of our enthusiasm has been born out of all our work on this over the past 15 years. And again, this idea of borderless financial services, like you're saying, when you start working on messaging and then you try to put in any kind of payments or financial services, those quickly seem apparent. And so we're very excited about that, and the adoption shows it. Very last question. Any advice for this group? You have thousands of entrepreneurs in the room, people at earlier stages in their journey. I know it's kind of hard to provide generalized advice, but based on everything you're thinking about right now.
Well, I mean, I think we've talked about a bunch of the themes, right? So one is way that AI and these internet platforms are developing, a lot of the things that if you were starting whatever you're starting 20 years ago, you would have had to have built up all these different competencies inside your company. And now they're just great platforms to do it. I mean, you can run your whole business using all the different things that Stripe has. And I mean, that's awesome. Like, we didn't have that when we were getting started, right? We had to build up all this stuff. You can basically find customers and interact with your customers using all of the AI stuff that I talked about earlier. So it's like, I think that just, what does that mean? I think it means that you can focus on like the core idea of what your company is better. And I think that this is just going to lead to like much better quality stuff that gets created around the world, because now you're just being able to have these like very small talent-dense teams that are like passionate about an idea, which maybe gets to the management philosophy thing, which is like, yeah, I mean, make sure that, if you actually don't need to end up duplicating all this different functionality, and you can outsource key parts of what you're doing to a company like Stripe's platform, which I think is going to make it so easy to scale in all these places around the world and run your business better. What does that mean? It means that like your company can all be people who are really passionate about the core thing that you're doing, and that you can get started on building that team that hopefully is going to be with you for 10 plus years, and that you'll just do kind of amazing stuff with. And I don't know, I think that's a pretty cool vision for the future, is that people are going to be much more empowered to focus on the core idea and be able to work together to accomplish things at larger scale than has ever been possible before at any other point in human history.
People have a lot to work with.
All right.
So we are going to wrap. We're going to see you at the welcome reception right outside now. Well, then the next thing that we'll have here is tomorrow morning, bright and early, like Patrick mentioned. We are going to have the biggest product keynote that we've ever had, really. We're jamming in the ships, and I don't want to get you too excited, but there's a lot there. But please join me in thanking Mark Zuckerberg.
Thank you.
Thank you.